We're here. We're real.
Big news of the day, the Cthulhu Awakens Kickstarter is live, like right this moment. And we're just doing a casual stream. We're just talking about it. We're hanging out with some good friends. Folks are welcome to ask questions as you kind of come across this, whether it's live or you're watching it on demand. But we do welcome all of you. Say hello and let us know that you're here. This music makes me feel like I'm getting a massage.
By a tentacle.
This is a little Cthulhu-esque, but it reminds me, I don't know if you've ever been to a float spot where they put you basically in an egg in underwater and let you sit there for a little while.
I've heard of that.
It's supposed to be soothing.
Yeah, I have heard of that.
No, I have done a sensory deprivation tank before, though.
Isn't that what it is? Isn't that like float, like you kind of float in a bunch of salty water? And
Yep.
Similar, yeah.
Soothing. It's not soothing.
No, no, it sounds unsoothing. Well, look at
knocked out 3 times. That's as close as it gets for me.
You've been what? Locked out?
Knocked out 3 times. That's as close as it gets for me.
Hey, look at here. Got a little surprise guest who's joined us on the stream. I'm just going to drop the, when Owen and I do this, we call it a modesty shield. But it's really just a way to sort of put some... here we go. Okay, great. People are checking out the stream. We're just talking about Cthulhu Awakens. The Kickstarter is live for Green Ronin Publishing. Super stoked about that, and super stoked to have a powerhouse panel of pals hanging out. Hey, friends.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, folks.
We got a Pook, we've got Owen, we've got Malcolm, we've got Alex. Now, the good news is that in addition to just being... that sounded rude, didn't it? This is where I was going with
that. Statement was announcing that we were here. On one hand, we have these people.
Unfortunately, we got these guys.
The
good news is...
You're supposed to ask us if we want the bad news or the good news first, Troy.
No, I like to lead with the bad news. No, the good news, as I was going to say, is that, Malcolm, this is your baby.
I developed it, but really, it was the work of, I guess, about a dozen people.
Nice. Real talented folks that you kind of helped source and kind of worked with, and it's exciting. I mean, this is the Kickstarter right now, for those who are wondering, is doing, what do they say, gangbusters? Is that a thing people say?
Well, let me look at the little tab, and oh my goodness, look at that. That's people.
I'm showing 7,400.
Wait, 7,800.
119 backers. Wow! In under the first half hour. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's incredible.
One thing I want to say is that actually I'm really happy with the collection of people who are good enough to accept my offer, go to work on this. And if you go over to the Kickstarter page, it lists who they all are.
Well, I'm going to show that.
For other stuff. And one of the things that I'm actually quite grateful for is some of the work done by Joe Carricker and Tanya DePass. And they didn't work on the game, but what they did do was, for some other projects, they built up a list of freelancers, and I used that list when looking for people. And consequently, I was able to think out of the box a bit and find people with a wider range of experiences, and also people who were coming at gaming from a different perspective, like Sharang Biswas, did a lot of has done a lot of work on like interactive fiction side of gaming, for instance. So a great group of people, and I'm quite happy that I got help from Tanya and Joe on that.
Absolutely,
they're not
super
necessarily
talented.
aware of that because I basically snuck into their spreadsheet. So,
Oh, listen to this. One of our friends pops by and just, right out the gate, just a charming fella,
hey.
a charming so and so. So look at this: $8,287 pledged of the $10,000 goal. We have 123 backers and 36 days to go. I think we're gonna do it.
I think we'll be okay.
my guess is that within 36 days we'll be funded. Yes.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like 36 minutes. We'll be
Wow.
funded.
Yeah, that's the joke, Troy.
Oh,
Then it's
dang it!
That's the joke.
I'm wearing my
time to
business.
grind through those stretch goals.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. Have we talked about stretch goals in detail? Are we waiting to share all that good stuff, or?
Well, it's on the page.
Yeah.
So of course, in our interest in making you participate in the Kickstarter, we would like you to look at the page as often as possible.
Won't you?
But I'm just going to scroll down and remind myself. So we have three of them. Oh, yeah, we have three of them listed right now.
Well, let's do this real quick, Malcolm. Why don't we just start at the very beginning? We'll just kind of go through. Oh, you go for it. Yeah, we can do that too. That works.
Okay. So at $20,000, you get more Eldritch workings. So Eldritch workings are kind of what we have instead of spells. They're kind of like spells, but they're also maybe scientific processes and other things, right? The idea is that they're kind of supposed to be category breaking in terms of their effects. And they are not at all game balanced. You can do terrible things with them. Best of all, anybody can pick up like a forbidden tome or something and actually attempt to cast. It's not like a thing you add to your character sheet necessarily. So we have a bunch of those, and we are going to add 10 more if we reach $20,000.
Nice.
At $30,000, eligible backers will also get a copy of the Modern Age Basic Rulebook, and that is the kind of companion cousin game to Cthulhu Awakens. Cthulhu Awakens is a complete RPG, but it is an evolution of the Modern Age engine, right? So if you get Modern Age and Cthulhu Awakens, you can actually port a lot of stuff back and forth and kind of hack it together to your preference. And Cthulhu Awakens does include some notes on how to incorporate things from Modern Age. And then at $40,000, we're going to add a 10th chapter with an introductory adventure to the core rulebook. So that's what we've got so far. And we have some other ones sketched out should people blow through those first three stretch goals.
Look at this
Malcolm?
team.
Malcolm, can you talk about the 48-hour incentive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
that's what most excites me, to be honest.
Our incentive, and we're kind of bopping around ideas. And one of the suggestions was zines. And so that actually dovetailed with something that I wanted to do that didn't really have a place in the core book. And that was to do a lot of adventure generation tools. So we have Dread Crawls, and Dread Crawls issue 0 is going to be a location generator for Cthulhu Awakens. And it'll probably work with other takes on the mythos, but it's focused on Cthulhu Awakens, and in many ways it's sort of like a horror facing version of, well, those of you who have gray in the hair like myself may recall that in the first edition, Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide, there were like tools for like rolling up your own dungeon, stocking it, and things like that. So this is like that, but for like alien ruins and office buildings and underground cult temples and things like that. So issue 0 is going to have a way to generate those things.
Hey, $9,243.
And you're going to get that included if you order now.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to do 2 other issues of Dread Crawls, at least, and it's going to have adventure generation material from various other kind of starting points and scales, right? There's some. Oh, Tyler Duckworth asked, "Are there any Eldritch rituals?" As a matter of fact, there are, and
we're just going all over the place today. Here we go.
That's what the Eldritch workings are, and there are a bunch of them. They do things like you can turn people into a fine powder for later reconstitution.
Oh, just a powder person, okay.
It's like astronaut food for astronauts.
Yes, you can turn
dry disembodied voice.
Summon various things that are a bad idea to summon. You can travel through time. You can mess with natural laws on a very large scale. You can create a machine that will teach you things you're not supposed to know. All of them are designed for flavor, as well as doing a thing. And
I'm stopping the screen share for just a moment because it's not updating, and I want everyone to be able to see that, this is getting kind of hectic. There we go.
It's shooting up there. I'm keeping
It
an eye
is
on
indeed.
it.
But our power stuff are those and psychic powers.
$9,303.
Malcolm, what are some of the consequences of doing an Eldritch working or using a psychic power?
Oh, many bad things can happen.
Right, what's the cost?
So we have the alienation system, which is our take on the stress produced by the mythos, and the way we do it is that it's not really it's not literary madness, because of course there's a whole debate on the relationship between literary madness and actual mental illness, and why even have that conversation, right? At least in the context of getting a game going. Certainly there are other contexts in which you really do want to have that conversation. But basically the way alienation works is that the premise of the Cthulhu Awakens cosmology is that the entire universe that we can perceive is, of course, one fraction of the actual universe, right? It is sort of like the weird reflexive dream of Azathoth, maybe, right? But the actual universe consists of numerous unseen dimensions, and that is probably the majority of existence. And when you witness mythos phenomena, what happens is your mind becomes attuned to the rest of the universe. However, as a human being, you are not adapted to understand the rest of the universe. So you end up generating 2 effects. One is called enlightenment, as your understanding increases, and the other is called terror, as the bad effects of that understanding sort of wear down on you, right? So what happens when you cast Eldritch Rituals is that you witness this stuff, and you have to make a test to see if you gain some alienation. And that's not all.
Hey, real quick, Malcolm, we're at $9,964. We are nearly there.
You can also make catastrophic mistakes attempting to cast one. And also you can be in the middle of casting one, casting an Eldritch working, and decide it's too dangerous, but then the working might still keep casting itself.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that concept
Yeah,
though.
I wanted to get the whole I wanted to get some traditional horror stuff, right? And and working with Hiromi Kota on this, we kind of hit on this, and what are some of the things that happen in horror media that you don't necessarily see in games? And one of those things is just some person picking up a big tome and trying out whatever's on it, right? So,
Right.
right? Not buying a degree in the Mythos magic talent, but just flipping open some pages and doing their best, right? So we
I
have
really like that idea. I think that's a really cool concept, especially because bad horror stuff always happens when some idiot picks up the flesh covered book and like,
Mhm.
what's in this?
maybe I
Tries
didn't
to
see
figure out
all
what's
your
tasty.
little words.
Right.
Malcolm, is there an incentive that makes players want to act towards genre like that, or is everybody the smart guy who's like, you must not read from the book?
Well, the first thing is that the workings are really useful. Like, they let you do things like go to another planet if you want to go to another planet.
Mm.
They let you do things like you can replicate the way the Migo performs surgery, right?
Hey, we
Um,
are at 10,000. We are at 10,200 and won't stop. It's
did
266. We
we
did
hit
it.
it?
Yeah, we sure did. Let me give that a
Woohoo!
refresh. Nice.
Ow!
Nicely done. It is taking a minute to refresh because
Funded in 42 minutes, not 36.
stream is the worst. Thank you, Jonesy. Jonesy is letting us know as well, and that's exciting. And let me turn this on, turn it off again. But yeah, we did it. Well done. Congratulations to all involved. This is an exciting moment. This is very, very cool. And it's not showing, so I don't know why. And so we're going to stop the share. And but yeah, it is definitely. I mean, how long have you been working on this?
Since 2020.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of taking that slow, deliberate work that it takes to kind of get this stuff in order.
Well, it was originally going to be a modern age supplement, and it was actually Owen who had the idea that maybe it should be its own thing.
Right. Yeah.
Because we were talking about modern age, and we were having a devs only meeting. Ooh, secret dev meeting chat.
Happens a lot.
That's
I
where
was
the Eldritch
talking
working
about,
happens.
That's
modern
right.
Modern Age has had a good slate of books out for it, and I was kind of like, well,
Thank you, Calvin.
I
Thank
don't
you.
want to get into a place where I'm just pumping out in stuff that has an increasingly smaller fan base, because those of us who are longtime industry watchers have seen that happen with other games, right? So the question was, well, I did want to do a Mythos supplement, and what's the best way of going about it? And Owen was saying, well, maybe it should be spun off into its own core, and that was the right idea. And that actually allowed us to really take things in the direction it needed to go, to make the best game possible. Because Modern Age is a very expansive game because there's no modern genre, right? There are many modern genres, right? Horror, techno thriller, all of those things, right? And Modern Age has a bunch of tools to support them all, right? But that very wide set of tools doesn't necessarily work for telling a very focused story. And while I could have done a supplement that says, use this, don't use this, use this, don't use this from Modern Age over and over again, it's easier just to port the rules and streamline them, right? So, for example, in Cthulhu Awakens, we have a smaller curated list of stunts, right? And a lot of that has also come from, well, the other thing is doing it as a separate book also let us take advantage of some of the other action that was going on in other Age games, because while this was happening, Fantasy Age was being, the new Fantasy Age core stuff was being drafted for that, and there were especially some new stuff with stunts, and with some of the basic procedural stuff that I really wanted to port over. So that stuff is ported over. So it kind of represents the most contemporary thinking we have on Age as a broad system. So I'm happy that we were able to kind of go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me drop this down since we made it. We funded. We'll make you all big so we can see you. And
we should be tracking our first stretch goal at this point, I suspect.
There's about 20 things I'm tracking right now, and that is definitely one of them.
One of the things that I have really enjoyed watching Malcolm do the development for this, right? Because he would periodically, either in dev traps or on one of the online channels reviews, like, here's my take on this mythos trope, is that this game, one of the reasons that the tagline is rely on past knowledge at your peril, is that Malcolm has really gone all the way back, dialing it back to the source material and saying, okay, what is a take on this source material if I was making the very first game with this source material in the year 2020, right? Mm-hmm. If that was my goal, what would I be doing? And so reading that stuff Malcolm has made the mythos new to me. I am in no way slamming on any of the previous mythos and Cthulhu RPGs. I own a bunch of them. I played a bunch of them. They're a lot of fun. But I'm a big fan of the Age system. No shock, I'm biased. I'm the Fantasy Age developer. Or really, I ought to say one of the Fantasy Age developers, because Malcolm is also really at the moment the Fantasy Age developer too. He's got his finger in many Age pies. But he's really reimagined this from the ground up, and I get why he was talking about, it's not exclusively his baby, because he had a lot of great people working on it, but he's had a very consistent interesting vision, and like a movie director as the developer, right? He might not be the actor, and he might not be running the camera, and someone else may be writing part of the script, but he's the person that's been bringing it all together into a single consistent package. And I'm really excited. I have the advantage that I've gotten to read a lot of it, obviously. I'm really excited about what that package is going to mean, and the fact that it is a complete role-playing game in one book means that we are not asking people, okay, pick up the Mage Core rulebook and pick up this book on Eldritch deities, and then pick up this book and you can finally play this game. It's all in one place. And while, if you know Modern Age in particular, or any Age game, a lot of it is going to be very, very familiar to you. Malcolm has done a masterful job, in my opinion, of fine-tuning the game so that at any place you would do something slightly differently for the best possible mythos game. Malcolm was able to easily and quickly take that direction. And as he said, we don't therefore have this huge list of sidebars of what rules you should and shouldn't use for the base game. And one of the nice things about it being so close to Modern Age is that if you look at this and you go, yeah, this is great for cosmic horror, what I really want to do is have a group of commandos and Doctor Strange-like wizards blowing away things that happen to have tentacles. Great, you can take all of those concepts.
You can absolutely do that.
Yeah, you can absolutely take that stuff and bolt it in there. And this game doesn't assume that you want to play it just one way.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that praise too, because I've been basically speed reading the book for the last couple of weeks. Since I got my hands on the draft, and it's engaging. It's really interesting. There's been a lot of times I've been lying in bed right before going to sleep and be like, "That's a really cool idea." I'm not going to sleep well later. But it's excellent. It's one of my favorite takes on the mythos that I've seen personally.
Well,
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
There were just some great people like Liz Chapratikul and David Castro worked on the setting chapter, and they brought in some really cool ideas. a lot of David Castro's stuff, in particular, on just on taking a new look at what's in the source material, right? Because one of the sort of ways we operated when looking at the source material.
There we go. Hey, I'm sorry, Malcolm. Just one quick second. I want to say hello to everybody on Facebook. Facebook's got some kind of a glitch going, but we are now live and people can see. So, hello, everyone, and join the chat. Ask some questions. We're hanging out here with Malcolm Shepard, the developer of Cthulhu Awakens, and his fan club, which we are. And we are celebrating the fact that the Cthulhu Awakens Kickstarter is fully funded, but in like 30 minutes or something, thereabouts. Pretty exciting stuff. And thank you, Malcolm. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about great people that you worked with.
Yeah, great people working. Okay, so yeah, David Castro really ran with sort of one of the premises we have is that you should assume that the public domain mythos fiction that we use as the basis of what we do, that it all comes from unreliable narration, especially when the characters or the voice of the story represent terrible opinions. So one thing David Castro did was really run with that and come up with new interpretations of what happened in these stories, and also extended those roots into the present, right? So so he talked about things like, what is a subculture of ghouls doing in the modern day, right? Of Lovecraftian ghouls, right? And also is responsible for well, this was kind of a back and forth because he talked about the descendants of Randolph Carter and Herbert West.
I am so excited about the Carter West Agency.
Yeah, becoming a couple,
so excited.
And investigating the supernatural, and that was something that I really enjoyed. So I was like, yeah, they have to have a detective agency.
Yeah, that gives me because that definitely gives me SCP Foundation vibes, to be sure.
Yeah, and they have to have this agency that can send people off to go do player character things, right? Because that's always the thing, is when you're working on a game setting, you do have to have those kind of story call to actions embedded in there, right? Either as antagonist groups or as someone who will meet you and tell you to go do a thing for money or because it's the right thing or whatever. I mean, in Age, in Modern Age and in Cthulhu Awakens too, we also have the drive, right? So drive is a mechanic that I brought in for Modern Age, and one of the things that drive is it's why you get into trouble, right? Because the premise of every Cthulhu Awakens character, like the premise of every Modern Age character, is that their personality inclines them to participate in the story. You cannot make a PC whose action is to go away and avoid doing interesting things. It's just a rule. So, you have that impetus, but, the setting exists to structure that impetus that we have mechanized, right? Certainly we're not the only game to do that kind of mechanization of motivation, but it's just a handy tool to have in your back pocket.
I like that, and I also really like the team there. You were earlier, we were going to kind of talk about them a little bit, but this is a pretty phenomenal cast of characters. Now, are these all folks that you've worked with in the past? Are they folks that you're just fans of?
It's about 50-50. People I've worked with in the past were Howard Ingham and Moon I worked with, and Ian I've worked with, of course, and Danielle. those are the folks I've worked with in the past. A lot of these, well, some of them I've worked with, working for Onyx Path and working on White Wolf World of Darkness properties, and that was certainly an experience because those are very big established intellectual properties that you're kind of messing with. So I kind of knew what they could do within a genre, and all of them brought kind of special understanding of doing that kind of work.
Well, I got to tell you, that picture of Ian is amazing. He looks so good, and it's his birthday today.
Is it his birthday?
It sure is. It sure is. Yeah. So he won't be joining us on stream today, but throughout the campaign, we're going to be doing actual plays, live streams. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, getting into the whats and the hows of Cthulhu Awakens, and we've got more stretch goals to unlock. We've got let's take a look real fast and see where we're at, because I know we've got to talk about all this stuff, but then we've also got to celebrate our milestones. Here we go.
I currently show us at 12,999.
Okay, our you can tell them. That's awesome. That is pretty darn amazing. So bets on getting to that stretch goal. It feels like we just got to wait, just a couple hours, or maybe not even that, huh?
Yeah, I think 20,000 today. I'm now at 13,059, right?
Right.
I think that is a given.
Yeah, absolutely. So much anticipated too. We got lots of great feedback. There were a couple folks who would just be like, oh, why Cthulhu? Everybody's doing Cthulhu. Oh, thank you. Oh, Mr. Bodie.
Bodie is so cool. I love Bodie.
Yeah, good friend of ours. But I love this genre. I mean, it's just one of my most favorite. It is, just all it talks to my inner Gen Xer. I think that was just a definite moment of that whole mythos is just it's pretty rich and it's pretty consuming, if you will. I love it. Yeah. I mean, Malcolm, what attracts you to this to the mythos?
I think part of it is that it is it's a socially complex phenomenon. And so it gives me plenty of room to kind of play with. It is kind of not much of a respecter of genre boundaries, and that's something that I wanted to emphasize in the game, right? Is that it has a fantastical side and a science fictional side and a horror side, all kind of mashed together,
and a homicide,
and with
lots
kind
of homicides,
uncertain divisions between those parts, and that's kind of the stuff that I enjoy now. Like I enjoy it in my other fiction, and it means that there's endless room for kind of reinterpretation and adding it to new stories, right? Like Apuk was talking about SCP before, right? And the funny thing with the origin of SCP is that comes from Charles Stross' story. What is the name of that story? Anybody? But there's a Charles Stross story that.
Hey, Robert Emerson, good to see you.
Cold War, that's the one.
Okay.
I remembered because what is that story that was set during the Cold War? But it's an alternate Cold War where the Cthulhu mythos exists and is actively used for military and espionage purposes, right? And it is kind of the annals of an intelligence officer, living through the end of the mythos-caused end of the world, specifically caused by the fact that that Cold War powers are using mythos entities and procedures and gates to other worlds as part of their dirty dealings. Like, I think there's one scene where, like, they're, the CIA is doing some smuggling via a portal between planets that just happens to allow them to skip to another part of the world, right? And the
That
story
seems reckless.
goes to the point where, eventually the, intelligence officer joins the last remnants of humanity on this distant planet that was through a Elder Thing portal, right?
Right.
Because their Cold War maneuverings have caused the end of the world, right?
I love it.
You can do that. Yeah, you can do it entirely. You can merge these kind of espionage techno thriller elements to the mythos and make it work. And of course, we've seen other games that do that too, right? Like Delta Green and things like that.
Mhm.
What I wanted to do specifically is provide that wide open arena and let the capabilities of this genre kind of express themselves, right?
I love it. Well, so speaking of that real quick, and I hate to cut you off, but I want to get some voices from the chat in here. One of a friend of the program, MTG Duelist, asks, can you talk about how this game maintains or changes the "we're gonna die" feeling, like that dread that permeates the whole?
There's well, the thing is that we didn't want to make Call of Cthulhu but with age, because there's an amazing game called Call of Cthulhu that does Call of Cthulhu better.
That's right. Yeah.
To do Call of Cthulhu. It's kind of like when people ask for an age supers game, and we have Mutants and Masterminds, which is, probably a better supers game than anything we could just slap onto age. Right? We can do powers in age, but it's a different approach, and we'll talk about that during another live stream. But
but the point's well taken. Yeah, I mean, this is different. This is
the thing is that it's really up to you. We have, characters are by default fragile in Cthulhu Awakens. They're not realistically fragile. You can take a bit more of a beating than you maybe could in real life, but you don't get tougher as you go up in level, which is sort of an important distinction.
Like life as well, right? I mean,
and getting shot is really bad for you.
That tracks.
But we have an option called Fortune, which those of you who know The Expanse will be familiar with, which gives you some wiggle room and allows you to tough it out in combat and allows for more dramatic action and things like that. So you're not necessarily going to die. Whether you're going to die depends on exactly how the GM tunes the game. Like, for the rules for alienation, we do have a couple of dials, right? And one of those is the maximum number of times you can fail tests, alienation tests during a story, and that is explicitly a dial that you can turn, right?
Kickstarter is now at $14,000.
Because you can turn that dial all the way up so that there's no limit. And certainly that would that stands a great chance of making your character unplayable, but you can dial it back and limit it to a set number of times per session, so that whatever happens to your characters is more gradual. So we do have a number of tools to kind of let you moderate how that stuff happens, right? I mean, we're kind of joking around that, like, the stereotypical Mythos game is everything is green, and then you go crazy and die, right? Right? So, and we kind of wanted to, it's possible to do that, but it's also possible to do other things, right?
Yeah, Malcolm, it really sounds like you've given the GM a lot of control to tell the kind of story that they want to tell based on what they think the mythos is, and I think that's excellent.
Yeah,
that's more control for the people trying to tell their story, and I think that's great.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about both not wanting to try and duplicate other Mythos games and not trying to force you to play this game in exactly one way, these are examples of how this system allows that, right? Mm-hmm. Malcolm has worked on a bunch of age games and a bunch of age supplements, and wrote a chunk of the next Fantasy Age book, for example, the upcoming core rule book. So he's very familiar with what aspects of the game system impact the feel and play, and the creating dials that the GM can twist in his game in explicitly change that determines how dangerous is alienation, how squishy are players, etc. Those are things that mean that you can take this book if you love a previous edition of a Cthulhu game, but can't find anyone to play it, or you feel like you've gotten everything out of it that you can, so you're just looking for something new, or if you're a fan of the real Ghostbusters animated show from your childhood and you liked the episode Collect Call of Cthulhu, regardless of where you're coming at your interest in the mythos and gaming, there is a way to make that work within this book.
I dig it. I love it. We're looking good. I'm looking at the Kickstarter. I'm just diving in here real fast to ask a question. So can we talk a little bit about some of the inspiration and sort of like some of the content that they'll find when they get the book? And we've talked a little bit about it on the Kickstarter, but I was hoping we could wax poetic a bit on some of that.
Oh, like what's in the book?
Yeah.
Contents of the book. Yeah, I guess people want to know about that stuff.
They do. They really
There's words
do.
in it.
Yeah. So it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we have a big old narrative setting chapter, and that describes the Weird Century. So the Weird Century is sort of the concept that came out. Not initially when we were working on it, but it kind of ended up being the focus because of what everybody had submitted. Starting on, I knew I didn't want it to be a single period kind of game. That I wanted it to, go up to the modern day, but I also wanted it to, be able to do the 1920s and 30s. So what we eventually settled on was the concept of the Weird Century, which goes from the 1920s to the present. So it's this 100-year period that gets specific detail about stuff that's happening in it, across the Cold War and after the Cold War. I will note that there's a little sidebar saying the pandemic is optional because I couldn't help but import a little bit of fantasy. I wish it was optional, but of course it's really, really not.
Could I ask a quick question? Why start it at 1920 rather than at the beginning of the actual last century?
Because that way I don't have to call it the weird 120 something years.
I see.
I just assumed you had just a thing against the Titanic. You don't want to have a Titanic adventure.
Yeah, just right to the Titanic. That like just before. You just don't get any of that.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to ruin anyone's memories of that wonderful film from the 90s.
But we could write an adventure that takes place at a screening of the movie from the 90s.
I'd make room for any of you on that door. I'm just saying. I wouldn't let you sink.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a really great sandbox, but it's also a really good toolbox. So kudos for that. I think this is a very GM friendly book, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from that.
Can either of you, without repeating things we've already said, answer the following question from Aaron Unicorn? I have teenage daughters who are super into Cthulhu conceptually, but who don't like the idea of playing a game where you're all but guaranteed to go mad or die. What makes this game a better fit for them than classic COC?
Well, what you can do is you can make their characters use the optional fortune system so they get tougher and more able to intervene in dice rolls than they would in an iteration of the game without fortune, right? You have that option to add it on. You can also turn the dial back on alienation, so that, to allow maybe, one failed test per session, right? So that makes things a little slower, right? Or, you can always opt just not to use alienation too, right? I mean,
Yeah, how would that look?
how would that look?
Yeah.
The only thing that would affect balance-wise probably would be the Eldritch rituals, because, you know, you might want to start casting them willy-nilly. So you might want to, like, you know, produce more stringent demands for ingredients, and, you know, because you need special components for all of them and things like that. So I mean, yeah, you can certainly do it as, you know, as a heroic adventure game with, you know, largely by tweaking it using the dials that are in the book. Right. And, you know, I'm just giving you some advice now if you want to go a little further and remove alienation entirely. Right. But you can also keep it down to something very slow if you like. Right. And in fact, it's something, one of the things that, one of the ideas that I like that I don't see come up enough, in my opinion, in a lot of games, is not just having house rules or adjustable rules, but having rules that are adjustable within the framework of the same game. And one of the things that I think I got in there about alienation is that you can change how alienation works across the course of a single campaign, right? You can apply it as a kind of rhythm. So if you have, like, let's say you want to have a major sort of like mind imperiling encounter, you can decide that, you know, alienation test limits are gone, right? And people can suffer as much as they might within the context of this encounter, right? But then you can bring back a limit in subsequent encounters. I do like doing stuff like that. So yeah, the tools are there to do that.
So
It was bad before. Now it's really bad.
That's right. Bad. Yeah, it's pretty weird, you know, just in reality, for sure. But I do like to.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I just wanted. At some point, I want us to talk quickly about the 48-hour window that's opened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say I've always liked being able to, you know, adjust dials in play as well. And maybe some future stuff for Age will include that. One of my favorites, and this doesn't really have much to do with anything, but is when you take the dice from behind the GM screen and put them in front of the GM screen to let everybody know that they're completely at the whims of fate. That even if you fudged before, you're not fudging now. It creates quite an effect, right? I love having little dials like that, and, you know, mechanizing them is one of the pleasures of doing game work. Anyway, the zine, the 48-hour thing.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, so we talked a little bit about it, but it's okay that we repeat things because, you know, people come and people go, and this is an infomercial, and it's infotainment, really. I mean, if you want to think about it,
Operators are standing by.
They aren't. This is a self-serve operation. I'm kidding. They are. Yeah. No. So talk to me, Malcolm, about the in 48 hours. If you get in there, you pledge now, then you're going to get a free backer.
And if you pledge now, we are doing a zine in support of the game called Dread Crawls. And the idea behind Dread Crawls is to create story generation tools. And so the first issue of Dread Crawls, which we have confusingly called issue 0, you'll get that for free if you are a qualified backer in the first 48 hours. And that is going to be a location generator where you can create and stock different mythos-related locales. And that's going to be followed up by 2 other issues. So the second issue is issue 1, and the third issue is issue 2, which is not at all confusing. And it was a great idea for me to number it that way. But what you really should know is that in those issues, we're going to have other, we have plot generation tools, and we're going to have like large-scale world and event generation stuff. If you've seen some of the stuff that's in the Modern Age Companion, it's building off of that. If you've seen some of the stuff we've done for Threefold in that space, it's like that. And actually, the person we have working on it, Jesse Hainig, is just fantastic at doing this particular work, right? Because they have that kind of, Jesse's day job is as a writer for Cryptic on Star Trek Online. He's extremely skilled, but he also understands the old school side of gaming. Like one of the things that he is involved in is Arduino fandom and things like that, and knows what people want out of a set of random tables, and that kind of really spare directed game design that is often really vital stuff, which is why I follow it. So that's what's happening with the zine series. But Zero, which is where you get the location generator stuff, that is going to be part of your pledge if it's qualified, and if you order now in the first 48 hours,
then you'll get it. You're gonna get it. Yeah, I like this. Jones just says, so Nether Wars numbering.
Shush.
Yeah, right. That's so funny. I love it. Wait, hold on now. Oh, nice.
No, the first one is number 0.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. In the game that we're calling Zero Game. All right, hold on here. We are. I gotta say, as a bunch of people who we just love to get together and hang out and have some fun, making and playing tabletop roleplay games. We get to also hang out with people who just do some incredible stuff, and I'm just elated to share with you something that. If you're not, maybe you're just seeing us for the first time and you're like, who are these people? We're the Team Green Ronin, and we are streaming live about the Kickstarter, of course. And we also stream on Mondays. We do Mutants and Masterminds Monday. And then we do, we call it, what's that called, Owen Casey Stevens? It's called Thursday. That's right. And that's with you and I and other age developers as well. And today we are blessed. We get a guest artist who pops in every once in a while and shares some great stuff. And let me share with you.
I'm so glad I didn't miss Stan's art.
Yeah,
You did not miss Stan's art. This is
pretty darn amazing. But yeah, so Stan will contribute some of his talent, his incredible talent. Let me get it open. It's so good. I know, poor Cthulhu. Hold, please.
Poor Cthulhu.
And during the break, I'll note while he's getting this up that if you like this art, our friend Stan also has his own Kickstarter that is ending today.
That's right.
Sympathy for the Devil, which is a bugbear PI noir story. So go look that up if this amuses you the way it delights and amuses me.
Yeah, I backed that last night. That was very
nice.
Excellent.
Hey, I want to say thank you to Aaron Unicorn. Says, I'm going to get it. Well, good. Thank you for your questions. And if anyone's hanging out in chat and you're like, what other things should I know about this? Feel free to ask your questions. And yeah, this is great. I love it too. Nicole's like, I think I know what's coming. Yeah. People will. Yeah. And you get more of Stan, by hanging out with the community and having some fun. And this is inspired. I love it. Thank you, Stan. And we're going to get a link over to your Kickstarter as well, just so we can. I like that little passing of the baton. That's kind of cool.
I wonder if Stan did that on purpose.
I doubt it.
Stan did it on purpose? The brilliant and always on topic Stan?
Stanix. And that.
Malcolm, I have a timeline question.
Mm-hmm.
Does alienation get more dangerous as the decades progress, or are there different time periods where alienation is more dangerous, like during World War II when the whole world is in crisis, or
Not
anything like
really.
that?
It really, like, alienation. The way alienation works in the game is that it's based on a set of willpower tests. And the exact focus that you use the willpower test. If you don't understand focuses and stuff, I can get back to it. But the willpower focus varies depending on which of the 4 basic sources of alienation there are, right? So you get alienation from seeing weird creatures. You get alienation from encountering the outsiders, the gods of the mythos. You get alienation from, visiting artifacts and sites, and you get alienation from seeing things that are just plain weird, right? And what happens is that you have each of those channels can affect you, and you can build what are called enlightenment bonds and terror bonds. And as I said earlier, one measures how you're growing to understand the majority of the universe, which is occupied by mythos creatures. And one of them is how it kind of erodes your psyche to have that understanding. And both of these take the form of bonds. And bonds is if you are familiar with the way relationships work in some other age game, bonds kind of work similarly in that they kind of produce a pool of stunt points that you can use for various things, or which can be used against you, depending. So you can use enlightenment points to buy stunts that represent the fact that you have a sudden burst of inspiration about this phenomenon in front of you. So really, what it depends on is the stimulus, right? So if you have, you could conceivably have a scenario where during the Second World War, people dig up something that ought not to be dug up, and they turn into minions, which are sort of the end state of what happens when you eat too much alienation, right? And then, if they meet other people, that triggers alienation. So certainly it can spread virally.
Bodhi, think of it less like the, sort of early 90s television show and more like the cortisol levels in your in your brain.
However, I know that one of the things that people have asked about is whether there's something similar to the Expanse's churn. And the answer is there isn't. However, I am willing to entertain perhaps adding something like that, depending on how successful this Kickstarter is. If
stealth stretch goals.
I love it.
Certainly, if we blow past all those stretch goals and are searching for more stretch goals, we do have some plans for stuff, and I could be persuaded to add those rules to those. It was very tempting. Here's the thing. The reason I didn't add it was that it was so tempting to add it, but it's such a distinctive Expanse thing. We have a version of it in Modern Age, a generic version called Complications, so you can port that to Cthulhu Awakens unchanged. And that's in the Modern Age Companion. But the churn in the Expanse is so connected to the Expanse that I didn't just want to lift it, even though mechanically it's great. I didn't want to lift it and maybe deprive it of its identity in that game too soon. However, if there is sustained enthusiasm for this kind of idea, then I would be happy to go in there and see how the rules can be mythicized.
Did someone fall into a bundle of tentacles?
Yeah, and certainly, actually, Alex, the idea of that affecting alienation as a source of escalation is a great one. So I'm going to take that from you.
Hey, that's a gift from me to you, Malcolm. Happy Cthulhu Day.
That's how we do it. Hey, I I was looking at the Kickstarter, and Malcolm, when you threw down that threat, when you threw down the gauntlet, as it were, we just popped up like $2,000. So it's now we're at 17. Oh, there it goes again, 17,237.
Yeah, we are
Nice.
racing towards that first stretch goal.
I feel like I'm on like a PBS telethon.
That's
Like,
right.
If you want more seasons of Poldark, you know what to do.
Red versus green.
I'm actually binging Poldark, like, and if you think mythos horror is miserable, it's not nearly as miserable as Drowning in a Mine in Cornwall.
No, that sounds
in the
horrible.
18th century.
That would give
You're
me
right.
that would give me some alienation. Tell you what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that we can't come up with a mythos adventure that involves drowning in a mine in Cornwall. These do not have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
True, very true. And you brought it right back together. I just would hope that we could pick a location that maybe had better food.
I had an
don't
ancestor
pick on
who got
Cornwall.
crushed in a mine in West
Sure,
Virginia.
Do not diss the Cornish pasty, sir. That is a fine.
That's the one thing.
Meal. Oh,
They got those hens.
They do.
Okay, I have a British food story that's quite related.
All right. Ooh.
That's okay. So I went to Wales back in, I think it was 2019, and I went to a convention in Wales, Swansea Gaming and Comics Expo, I believe it's called, and I was there with Keith Baker, great individual. And I was there with Howard Ingham, who, and they, of course, worked on Cthulhu Awakens. And they are, also one of the foremost experts on the folklore genre. So it was, Bram Stoker Award nominated for work on We Don't Go Back, A Watcher's Guide to Folklore, Room 207 Press. An amazing person, lovely to check out. And so I was over there with them. And one of the things that I got, taking the many trains it took to go from Gatwick to Swansea, it was that, like, growing up with, I have British family, right? And my mother's from Dover. And, we watched a lot of British shows, and it was like, I want to have one of these legendarily terrible British rail stand sandwiches. Right? And I did. And it was like, I don't understand how something can be soggy and stale at the same time.
Oh, I've had the same experience. It's so bad.
They accomplish it. It really is exceptional. But I saw these Cornish pasty stands, and I went, oh no, if I'm going to have a Cornish pasty in the United Kingdom, I'm going to make sure it's a homemade one. Blah, blah, blah. And so I'm saying this to Howard, and Howard went, "You ate a British rail sandwich? Why would you do that to yourself?" While explaining to me that, weirdly, to go one way, it's cheaper to buy a round trip ticket because we're in the United Kingdom. And then I said, well, I thought I would have a good food experience because I was going to get a nice Cornish pasty, and I avoided those Cornish pasty stands. And Howard went, those are great.
Yeah, that's where you go, right? Yeah.
Drive yourself. Those Cornish pasties are really good. And I was like, oh.
Well, listen, I say when you got the good stuff, don't deprive yourself of it, which is why I want to say hello to Chris Pramis. How are you? How do you like that intro?
Hello.
So, Chris, 42 minutes, I think is what I heard.
41.
Yeah. 41. Okay, we got competing things, but we'll go with your number as the definitive. That's exciting, huh?
Yeah, very exciting. After all the prep work that we've done for this campaign, it was nice to see the marketing stuff really pay off. Have people just ready to throw down, get some Cthulhu Awakens.
That's right. Yeah, we are at 17,000 waiting, saying this really slow and long. 938 keeps going up on me. Not that I'm complaining, but that's great. We are real close to that stretch goal. And the first stretch goal is?
I think it is 10 more Eldritch workings.
That's right.
Yep, that's your first stretch goal.
And yeah, that's awesome. And you know, one of the things I don't think we did real quick is, and I think we should do that, is talk about the tiers and the levels and stuff. Thank you. Our friend Jahan Anon says, "Nice,
Noise.
nice." Okay, I'm going to let me pull this up and just to talk about the tiers, because I think that they're, you know, my eyes keep tracking to that to the big golden green sort of book. But that's let's see. Hold, please.
I can run through them if you'd like.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, through this campaign, there are going to be 4 different editions of Cthulhu Awakens. So the standard edition is the hardback book, which will be probably over 300 pages by the time all the stretch goals and things are unlocked. And that's, you know, as the name indicates, that's like the basic book. That's what's going to be in stores after backers get their books and things like that. The PDF edition is simply the digital version of that same book. Then also in print, we're offering the special edition, which Troy is showing a mock-up of there. And that's going to be like a foil embossed like cloth cover with a ribbon bookmark. So, you know, a little bit fancier. And then
a fresh tentacle, right? Aren't we putting a fresh tentacle in the box when that ships?
we haven't said what the bookmark is or what it will do to you. So
Nice.
As the new guy, I don't have to butcher all the octopuses for that, right?
You do. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Oh man,
they're on the way. Sorry, Chris, go on.
Yeah, no worries. So the final edition is the Roll20 edition, which basically takes the core rulebook and you know, optimizes it for use on the virtual tabletop over at Roll20. So that'll, you know, break out art and you know, make it easy to share things with players and all that good stuff that Roll20 does. So each of those is a tier on its own, and then we have some combo tiers up at the top end. So if you want a special edition to just look pretty on your bookshelf, but you also want a standard edition to play with, you can get both of those at a bit of a discount. And then we have the top current tier, which is the get all 4 editions at once, and then you just get everything again at a discount. So that's
a tentacle for every edition, which means you can.
it turns out if you want to give us even more money, we want to make that as simple for you as possible.
Yeah.
Now, is that the tier that gets you the copy wrapped in human skin, or is that the secret? Like,
that's the tier? Unspoken tier.
I see.
Those who are interested will find it. Those who don't know won't know. This is great. And so then we've got that 48-hour special as well, which will give you the I love the concept of this. Let me get to it. That's our where's our dread?
The dread crawls.
So while you're looking, we
yes,
just got a question on the stream. Is there a sample adventure in the book or coming elsewhere? And we were just talking about stretch goals, and we're clearly going to be hitting the first stretch goal today. The last stretch goal we have announced, which doesn't mean it's the last stretch goal by a long shot, it's just the first one that we put on the page, is an introductory adventure, and I feel quite confident that we will hit that level before things are said and done. So
yeah, we're at 18,730, so $18,730. You bet. Yeah, 20K will unlock the dread crawls and all the goodies. Yeah, sorry. Let's talk about the dread crawls. I'm sorry. Real quick.
The dread crawl?
Yeah, Malcolm, is that you?
That's me. Well, it's not me. Well, it's kind of me. What it is Dread Crawls is a zine format that is full of ways to generate stories, and each from a different focus. So the 48-hour bonus is to get issue 0 of Dread Crawls, which is Strange Places and focuses on generating adventures through generating adventure sites. So if you remember those old school games where you had the dungeon generator, this is kind of that, except it involves modern buildings as well as, Elder Thing ruins and, weird cultic ritual chambers and things like that. And it gives you tools to sort of create and stock those. And I was talking to the designer, Jesse Hanig, who asked me if I wanted there to be non-Euclidean mapping options, to which I said yes. So you have the option for that as well. And then we're going to be coming out with more, which feature adventure generation through story outlining, and then another one which is adventure generation through large scale events. So it's kind of a campaign world event tracker to let you produce things that would appear in the news in your world that could be ported to adventure material.
Like this one, Conference Rooms of Cthulhu, says GM Jonesy.
Yes.
The horror.
This should have been a meeting. Make an alienation test.
That's right.
Or this should have been an email.
I love it. Yes,
I'm
exactly.
ready for the Zoom meeting adventure.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And in addition to the zines, certainly, come what may, there will be adventures made to support it. You just might not get that core book adventure unless you put your money down into the Kickstarter and hit that stretch goal for us.
That's right. And we are nearly there. They're hearing you and they are obeying. And that I appreciate. Well, listen. So we have. Let me just do a quick check. We're at 19,129. I'm feeling like there's a lot more to say, but we've got a whole campaign to sort of dig into this. We've got some actual plays that are coming up this week and throughout the campaign. We've got more discussions and interviews and all kinds of stuff that will be happening across the internet and enthusiast sites and that kind of stuff. In the meantime, if you want to have some, you've got some questions, you want to have some connection, you want to sort of figure something out, or you want to invite one of our panel folks to a podcast or some kind of Cthulhu summoning circle or whatever, you can send us a note at letsplay@greenronin.com and we'll connect you and we'll go from there. But I'm feeling, friends, like this is a good place to sort of say, hey, get us to that Kickstarter, get us to that first, stretch goal. Know that we have, we have others planned, and the more you share, the more you like, the more you talk to your pals about it, and get them engaged, the closer we all get to goodies that, I'm looking at this list here, and some of them we haven't even talked about yet. So we'll talk more about that throughout the campaign. Any final words as we kind of close out this particular stream and get ready for all the streams to come?
I made it just in time.
You did, Chris. You made it just in time. Malcolm, any thoughts of horror or cosmic sort of a consequence that you'd like to share?
I feel horrific gratitude. I'm really grateful for how everybody is pulled together to make this thing, and also to make this Kickstarter campaign, because we really went deep on the planning and getting everything lined up, and everybody had to work really hard. So I want to thank the writing and design team who are listed on the Kickstarter page, and I want to thank the folks I'm working with at Green Ronin for believing in this and pushing and shoving until we got here.
And here we are, right on. Absolutely. And we have sorry, I'm reading something else. We have lots more updates to come. We have lots of great things happening. We're gonna hit that stretch goal here in just a few minutes. Honestly, yeah, we're at 19,369. Nice, and we've got so much more. So much more to talk about, but we're gonna give everyone a little break. Let us sort of simmer in our Cthulhu. And just kind of bask a little bit, get to take a little bit of a victory lap. Well done, and fantastic. I'm super excited, and I think you should be very proud, Malcolm, and everybody who's contributed. So phenomenal stuff, everybody. We will talk to you soon. We've got this week is it's Tuesday. It feels weird. I feel like it's not Thursday. It's not Monday. Well, this coming Thursday, we've got a stream. We like to call it Thursdage. And maybe we'll talk some Cthulhu stuff. And maybe, why not? And there's certainly a lot to talk about in addition to all the other age products that we've got. So stay tuned for that. We'll give you some more detail as we get closer. In the meantime, go to that Kickstarter, share it with your friends, tell your mom about it. She really loves Cthulhu. I know. I just talked to her last night. So everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.